Hey, there's Tony Wiggins on Locked On Jaguars. I want to talk about something you can look forward to this weekend in the game against the Buffalo Bills that might bode well for the Jaguars. And I'll do that in just a second here on the Wednesday edition of Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jags, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's going on, good people? It's your man Tony Wiggins here with Locked On Jaguars, and we thank you again for making us your first listen of the day. And it's your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars. I want to talk about the team, man, and the way that they have proceeded so far, and try to compare and contrast that with how this week's opponent is built. Now, we're going to talk to Joe Marino from Locked On Bills on tomorrow with a crossover edition, and I'm sure you'll hear some of the same themes, but we're going to do a little bit of a different take here with the Jaguars, so let's get to it. I've always said never try to win the press conference, but always try to make sure you do the things that win games whenever you select a new coach. However, sometimes you can do both. Sometimes you can actually win the press conference and still build the team correctly and be able to win games. If you look back over recent history, one of the teams that has done a real good job of that is the Jaguars' opponent this Sunday in the Buffalo Bills. They didn't really make a sexy hire when they hired their coach. A career assistant, somebody who was I think the defensive back coach and then later on the defensive coordinator in Carolina. But it wasn't sexy, but it was very sound in the approach that they wanted to take, that they were going to build a team, they were going to build an infrastructure, they're going to get a quarterback that they could develop and then get tough players that personify the team and the city. And that's exactly what they've done. And it's why they're sitting where they are right now and are pretty much one of the 3 or 4 favorites to win the Super Bowl this year. And then you look in Jacksonville, and it was a lot of Hollywood talk when Urban Meyer got hired here to go with everything else that came along with hiring him. And it was a lot of talk of the best and destination and all of this stuff and speed. And it almost reminded me of Willie Taggart when he went to FSU and he came up with that slogan that he kept talking about. I can't remember the name of it, but it was some slogan he kept using when he referred to it. Lethal simplicity. That's what it is. Lethal simplicity when he referred to the offense. And what happens is, man, folks hear that stuff and their expectations get built up. The question I have to ask is this. Do you believe that the Jaguars are on their way? Is this just a blip? Is this just the first step? Or are they on their way to actually winning down the road? Because Buffalo didn't start out all hot, and they didn't start out with making the picks that everyone thought. I remember they took the Tremaine Edwards kid, the linebacker, and people thought it was a head scratcher. And they took Ed Oliver, and people were like, why? They've made some choices. They actually traded the picks that Kansas City ended up using. They traded that pick that the Chiefs ended up using to get Patrick Mahomes. So for some reason or some rhyme or reason, they've been able to overcome that stuff. Are the Jaguars in a position right now that the losing is going to end up eventually leading to winning, and we just don't get it? We just don't understand that when you're trying to do what they're trying to do, you're going to have some rough and hard years. I'm going to give you the answer. And I'm going to tell you why having an expectation of winning and having an understanding of the fact that they don't win right away aren't mutually exclusive. I think the Jaguars fans get exactly what they're supposed to get. I think everyone knew that this was going to be a hard and long process. I think everyone understands that it takes a lot to win. It wasn't going to happen overnight, that they weren't going to be going from 1-15 to winning the Super Bowl. Here's what I think the problem is. I think there are people that believe that You can't think both of those things at the same time. The fan base is a little bit divided. You get people that think they're totally underachieving. You get people that think that other people expect too much too fast from the Jaguars, and therefore that's why there's this disappointment. And that anyone, I see this quote all the time. They were 1-15. What did you expect? What people expected was better play. What people expected was a little bit of a glimpse and a visualization of the future, visualization of the future, that things at some point would improve. What they didn't expect was to actually regress in certain ways. What they didn't expect were the pre-snap penalties. What they didn't expect was just the total look of incompetence from the coaching staff. What they didn't expect was, outside of Trevor Lawrence, very little impact from an entire draft class. Those are the things that are throwing the Jaguars off to make people think that we're nowhere near where Buffalo was when they made that hire 3 or 4 years ago with their GM and their head coach. We're nowhere near that scenario. And most people believe that if we continue to go, and this is not just me, most people believe that if we continue to go in the direction that we're going, it's not going to ever get any better in the near future. And that's why in segment 2, I'm going to talk about this question. This statement. There's a lot of people that believe that there's no reason to continue going on with Urban Meyer after this season. I can't believe I'm even saying that at this point. We're 7 or 8 games into this situation, and folks don't believe that there's a reason to continue going on with Urban Meyer at this point, because they just don't see the progress, and they don't even see a path that the progress can even walk on. Already we're having these discussions. I talked to somebody today that said the same thing, and there's somebody that covers this team for a living, and they're plugged in. And quote unquote, that person told me, I just can't even see him going on past this year. And to think that we are in this situation 4 or 5 months after the enthusiasm for this team was as high as it's ever been. Maybe not higher than when the team first got here, or maybe not higher when they made it to the AFC Championship game and had the best record in the NFL. Maybe not as high as when they went back to the AFC Championship game in 2017, but it's pretty dang high. And now it's pretty dang low. And this is the point that we've reached. So I tell you what, I'm going to tell you why I personally believe, I don't know if they'll do it, but I personally believe they should just move on after this year if we don't see any improvement. But I'll also tell you the type of improvement I'm talking about they need to show, because it has to be way more than what they've shown at this point. I'm going to give you that scenario and that other scenario. I'm going to do it in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars fans, after I tell you how to save you some gas by using the Get Upside app. The Get Upside app can be found in the App Store or on Google Play right now. You download the app, you use the promo code Touchdown, and here's what's going to start happening. You're going to save 25 cents per gallon on your first fill up, and 25% per gallon on every fill up thereafter. Therefore, look, you're going to be getting, for the very first time, you're going to get up to 50 cents a gallon cash back on your first tank. And then after that, you're going to be saving 25 cents per gallon on your gasoline after that. It's amazing. It is absolutely amazing, man. And you're going to be able to accumulate this money and get it back out of your account. You can have them send it to your bank, to your PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon or other brands. Just download the free Get Upside app and use the promo code Touchdown and start saving you some money. I don't know who doesn't want to do this. It's the Get Upside app. Touchdown is the promo code. Start saving you 25 cents per gallon on your gas for your vehicle. All right, man. So listen, we're talking Jaguars. We're talking Urban Meyer. We're talking expectation. We're talking about the mutual exclusivity of, that sounds like a song, mutual exclusivity. But it sounds like, it goes like this. You can have an expectation that the team is better with a full understanding of the team is not going to be a playoff contender or a title holder, and you can actually still be disappointed in what you've seen. There are too many people that think that because they were 1-15 and because it takes a long time, that you're not even allowed to be disappointed in what you see, and that's just not true. When you look at the difference in talent between, say, Gardner Minshew and Trevor Lawrence, the thing that I've heard lately from a lot of people is that, well, Gardner was an NFL veteran and Trevor Lawrence is a rookie. Let me give you a correction on that. Gardner Minshew, his rookie year, won 6 games. His rookie year, he won 6 games. This is Trevor Lawrence's rookie year. There's no one on earth that when Gardner Minshew was a 6th-round pick, that probably would not have taken Trevor Lawrence number 1 in that same draft. This is not an indictment on Trevor. This is an indictment on the people coaching Trevor. This is an indictment on the team that has been built for Trevor as opposed to the one that was built for Gardner, not last year, but 2 years ago. Where have they gotten better? What is Urban Meyer's single quality that makes you believe, now that you've gotten a dose of it, what's his single quality that's made you believe that he can do what the Bills have done in what Tom McDermott has done with the Bills, or Sean McDermott, what he's done with the Bills in 2.5, 3 years? What gives you any idea that he's clued in and understands, and why should you be patient with someone who you don't know what they're being patient about? I don't even think they understand what they're being patient about. What quality is it that makes you believe that Urban Meyer is going to be able to change this and do this thing differently? I haven't seen anything. All I've heard is a bunch of talk. All I've seen is a bunch of press conferences where everybody's a warrior saying what he wants to do. I haven't heard one tangible plan to explain to me how he's going to do and how he's going to accomplish what he wants to accomplish. There are more and more sentiments and more people growing that believe that the Jaguars would be better off if they moved on. And I'm one of them. We've had things in the past, whether it be Gene Smith, Jack Del Rio. I love the Shaq Harris part of it, but when you look at Mike Mularkey and then the whole Doug Marrone and all of that, Gus Bradley, things have gone on and dragged on long enough and too long. The one thing about most of those people I just mentioned is that people liked them. Well, maybe not Jack, but people sort of liked all of those guys. The text I got a few weeks ago that told me that the quote that was heard was the squeeze isn't worth the juice. Like all of this stuff that we're putting in, all of this effort, all of these things we're doing, what we're getting back isn't worth it. That's not a good place to be if you're Urban Meyer. People at least want to see what's going on. I remember now back in 1989 with Jimmy Johnson. I can think back to this. And I always use this for reference because this was a similar situation in terms of cap space, free agency, draft capital, had a very, very empty cupboard and had currency to go out and build a team the way he wanted it built. I used to see disgust in Jimmy's face, like anger. And like, we just got to get better. I remember Nick Saban went back to Alabama and they played LSU. And basically he was playing against guys that he recruited and LSU beat him at the end of the game. Nick says, I recruited them. I know how good they are. When we get to the point where we're like that, we got to recruit like that and get those guys. And when we get to the point where we get those guys, then we'll be able to compete and play like that and win some of these games. Everybody ain't a warrior, man. Everybody's not the best of the best that you've ever seen. And so this thing, I want to see that. And if we can't see that with Urban, if Urban can't sit here and look, now he can tell us the obvious and say stuff like, we don't have any guys that separate. The one thing we're missing is speed. You're not just missing one thing. You can't cover anyone. You can put Usain Bolt and everybody else at wide receiver. You still have to guard people and cover people. When folks talk about the biggest needs on this team, they talk about the defensive backs, and they just use draft capital and free agency capital on getting a defensive backfield. The wide receivers that everyone thought was the strength of the unit, and I know DJ Chark got hurt, but before he got hurt, he wasn't playing that well. What has he done? What has he actually done besides receive the gift horse in Trevor Lawrence and sign Jamal Agnew? What has he actually done to give anybody around here any confidence that if you just keep going with him, he's going to do something different to be able to change the franchise? Absolutely nothing. I try to keep wrapping my head around this and figuring this out, but I can't find one tangible thing that Urban has done. And there's no bigger reminder of that than the team we're about to play this weekend. This is who you aspire to be. Can we ever get there with him and Trent Baalke? My answer is absolutely not. I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm going to tell you why. I want to talk about the Buffalo Bills a little bit and some of the things that they've done. And I want to talk, too, about Urban Meyer and his true weakness when it comes to adjusting to the NFL and the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's sad that we're even at this point. But it is what it is, man. It is what it is. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat anything and lie to any of you guys. It is what it is, and everybody understands that at this point. So we're going to go through that here and get ready for what I think is going to be one of the worst beatings this team has had in a long time in that stadium. We'll do it in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars in segment 3. I'm going to tell you about betonline.ag, though. They're back and better than ever. A new web interface for the start of the basketball season and more props, odds, and lines than you've ever had before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the basketball and football action this season. Now, last week was a tricky week because there were some teams that you thought were shoo-ins to blow out some teams, and it did not occur that way. They won the games, but guess what? They didn't win the spread, and even the Bengals lost to the Jets. So this tells you, man, there are opportunities out here. If you get a beat on something, there's opportunities for you to put some parlays together and win some serious cash. And you can do that if you head to the website on the updated or mobile websites to sign up today to receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use the promo code LOCKEDON because BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. Don't get left out, man, because BetOnline is where the game starts. I got to holler at you guys about Built Bar. I love me some Built Bar, and I love Thanksgiving and all of the good food and treats and plenty of them. But maybe you want a yummy dessert, but you got to watch what you're eating. You know, you can't eat something that's full of sugars and calories. It's the perfect time for Built Bars. Built Bar is a new holiday dessert. Feast on something delicious and feel good about it. One slice of pie can have upwards of 300 calories, and that's on the low end if you're eating some diet pie, right? But most Built Bars are only 130 calories and only 4 grams of sugar with plenty of protein. So you can feel like you're cheating, but actually not cheat because Built Bars are great. They're low calorie, low carb, low fat, and very, very high in protein. Most of all, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. It's a great option for when you're hungry. If Thanksgiving isn't coming soon enough, go for a Built Bar or two right now. Now, here's what you got to do. Go to built.com and use the promo code LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off of your order. I'm going to repeat it again. Use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. For a little bit of Twitter action, go to @bar_built for all of the latest. I love me some Built Bars, and you will too. I'm going to tell you right now, get that salted caramel, man, because that's where it's at. All right, so we'll talk about Urban Meyer. We're going to talk about, we've been talking about it all day. We've been talking about it all week, really. And if this was a game that I thought that they had a shot, if this was a game that I thought, well, this is a let's see what they got situation, I'd be a little bit different. This is a game that I believe screams I'm going to show you how long it's going to take and how far you have to go. Urban Meyer's biggest weakness that I alluded to before we went to break, not really break, but before we went to a pause for the cause, his biggest weakness is he doesn't know crap about the National Football League. He doesn't understand the ebbs and the flows of it. I think he thought that he was going to come in here and he was going to reinvent the wheel and change some things. And I think he was high on his horse. So he was going to do something that all of these other dudes have never done. I think Urban Meyer looked at the NFL the way a lot of us looked at Matt Patricia. It's like, why don't you cut your hair and get that stupid pencil out of your ear? Or the way we looked at Willie Taggart when he went to a game and had a whistle on his neck during the game. Like, what are you doing? That's what Urban Meyer probably did, and that's how he probably thought about the NFL. He probably thought, and I don't have this is just me now spewing my stuff. He probably thought that some of his good players in college, like Tebow, were ruined by the NFL because they didn't know what they're doing. He probably thought that how could Chris Rainey not be good in the NFL? He was a dog he is. He is a good football player. He probably thought that some of his guys that, they don't know what they're doing with JT Barrett. So when I get to the league, I'm going to figure it out. And then what he realized and what he figures out is the NFL knows exactly what they're doing. And now all of the things and all of the bullets that you thought were these kill shots and things that were going to help you be a good pro coach, you realize they're not. And you realize you can't recruit, just like he admitted that he can't recruit during free agency, which you should have known that you cannot recruit. I get the feeling when he was talking about a 32-year-old football player, everyone thinks he was probably talking about Tebow when in training camp when they were saying, what about, he said, well, you got guys, now they're not young, they're 32, you got to figure out their value. It sounds like he was talking and had Trent Baalke sitting on his shoulder. I don't think it was Tim Tebow. I think it was Carlos freaking Dunlap, who you just saw this past weekend with Seattle, punish them with batting balls down and constant pressure on Trevor Lawrence. See, these are the things that you have to know. This isn't let me figure it out league. That's for rookies. Trevor Lawrence has all the figuring out that he wants and all the leeway he wants from fans because he's trying to figure it out. If you're Urban Meyer, you don't get that option. Not when you stand up and you take the job and you talk like you got it all figured out already. It's pathetic. And unfortunately for Jaguar fans, and you know what? If I'm wrong, then good for Duval. If I'm wrong, then good for Jacksonville. That they might step up and play the way they played against Arizona in the first half and be like, no, we got pride too. Because in the NFL, and this is what he doesn't know, in the NFL, the difference between the worst team and the good teams, it isn't that much. It's a lot, but not that much. And what do I mean by that? You can be awful and play your absolute best, the Jets versus the Bengals, and actually raise some sand if you get some good fortune against a good team. But I'm not talking about a game. I'm talking about the season, and I'm talking about championships, and I'm talking about over a 2 or 3 year period. I'm talking about a macro approach to football. If you're bad, you're going to consistently lose to good teams. That's just the way it goes. I just got this strange feeling that whatever you feel this week as a Jaguar fan, you're going to feel it 100 times after this game because I think the Bills are the best team in the AFC, and I think they're one of the 3 best teams in the entire National Football League, and I think they built about that business. And this is the difference, and this is why I told you that I don't believe that Jacksonville is going to end up being that because he talks that stuff, but he doesn't walk it the way that crew does. He doesn't walk it the way that they do. Brian Daboll is in charge of that offense, and they have really developed their quarterback. They have also put guys who, while some of them are fast, but the other ones are quick in short areas. Even a guy that they drafted who's not active right now, the Stevenson kid out of Houston, returning kicks. He was a long shot to make the team, and he's on injury reserve right now, but they can't afford to get rid of him because he's running kicks back for touchdowns, catching deep balls, and he fit the profile of what they wanted. Now, the Jaguars had all offseason to address the fact that they needed speed at receiver. The first thing one of the things he talked about when he got here is he wanted to play fast. He drafted one player with speed. That's it. He drafted one guy with speed and then didn't sign too many others in free agents. And maybe Agnew, if you want to talk about him. But other than that, if you wanted to sign speed, you just could have drafted it or signed it, but you didn't do it. So now your hunting your need for speed is going to probably trump your need to find good football players because you're so desperate for it. Whereas Buffalo knew exactly what they were doing. They targeted certain people. They built their lines of scrimmages up with athletic toughness. The Jaguars. Now I'm sort of with the crowd that says James Robinson is so good. You actually didn't need Travis Etienne, and I understood why they did it because they were thinking two backs. They wanted the two back look that everybody else has. Look at Indianapolis; they got two backs, and some of the other really good teams that are winning, they have multiple backs, but it's almost as if that was a luxury, especially when you needed so much other stuff and you didn't address it. I don't think they understand team building. I don't. I want you guys to listen up for something tomorrow. Listen up. I believe Joe Marino, when he comes on tomorrow, will discuss what the Bills' culture is. And when he does it, I bet my money that it sounds very similar to what Urban says he wants the Jaguars' culture to be. And this goes back to something I kept saying. Can strength and performance alone, can you really be that much better than everybody else? Wait and see what he says tomorrow. Can you really win with that alone? Do you think other people aren't trying some of the new things? Do you think other people aren't trying to culture their way into wins? And what do you think? You think you're the only one doing it? See, so the things that Urban has led with this whole time, it ain't nothing new under the sun. You can't disguise and mask the fact that your team is unprepared. You can't disguise and mask the fact that they look like a not well-coached football team. You can't disguise and hide the fact you don't look too much better than you were last year with all of that cap space and all of those promises. I hope they prove me wrong. I don't think they will, but we'll see this weekend. You don't have to wait too long after your first listen, which is Locked On Jaguars, to go to your second listen, which is the Peacock and Williamson podcast. Brian Peacock is an NFL analyst, and Matt Williamson is a longtime NFL scout, and they come together and they put it together. A great podcast, something for you to hear and listen to every single day. And make sure you like and subscribe that podcast as well. I'm going to tell you, like I tell you all the time, man, you guys take care of each other tomorrow and do as good as you can, man. And hopefully I'll get proven wrong. I don't think so. I think the stadium's going to be full of Bills Mafia, and I think Buffalo's on a mission, and I think they're going to go out and show you the difference between what a coach does when he talks versus what a coach does when he walks. And we'll see about that Sunday. Until then, I'll see you guys on tomorrow with a crossover edition with Locked On Bills and Joe Marino.